Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about how to set up Betaflight for your DroneSoccer drone. Betaflight is a powerful open source software that allows you to fine-tune your drone's flight characteristics, adjust PID values and features. But getting started with the Betaflight can be very difficult, especially if you're not familiar with the software. To start, connect your drone to Betaflight via USB. When you connect the USB, the UCOM port will appear. So it's going to be on the top right of your screen. As you can see, there's a COM6 up here. The number is going to be different for different persons, so you have to make sure that it's not COM1, but COM number 2 or 3 or 4. In my case, it's 6. So press connect to connect to Betaflight. On Betaflight, on the main setup page, there's nothing much you can set up on this page. However, you can calibrate your accelerometer on this page. So on this tab, on the top left, calibrate accelerometer, you should put your drone on a leveled surface and then press calibrate accelerometer. And once done, it's gonna drone's gonna self-level on this screen. Moving on to the ports tab. On the ports page, you will have to set up serial RX for your receiver. So usually for S-Bus receiver, S-Bus is used by FrSky, Jumper, and Futaba. Those receivers use S-Bus, and S-Bus requires to use UART1. So you have to check serial RX on UART1. But for different receivers that doesn't use S-Bus, you may need to connect to UART3, which is RX3 and TX3, and then you have to activate serial RX on UART3. But on for my case, I'm gonna connect this to UART1 since I am using the S-Bus receiver. Continuing on to the configuration, on Mixer, you have to just leave it at a quad X. For ESC and motor features on the top right, we recommend you to use DShot 600. Some people try to use DShot 1200, but it's gonna make your motor hotter than usual. And on DroneSoccer, heat management is really important for your motors. So we don't want to overheat your motors, so we're gonna set it to 600. Motor stop. For the beginners, I recommend not activating the motor stop for beginners, because what motor stop does is to stop the motors even when drone is armed, which means that you don't know if drone's armed or not. Usually, if you do not activate motor stop, then when you arm the drone, the motors are going to be spinning. So you know the motors are armed, but so that beginners know that drone is armed. But for the experts, we recommend using motor stop, because in DroneSoccer, usually drones roll around and sometimes go upside down. So you want your motors to be stopped when those things happen until your drones get to recover. So we recommend activating motor stop for experts. For the motor idle throttle value, 5.5% is just perfect to be used. For system configuration, usually we do not recommend going high value for gyro update frequency and PID loop frequency. What we recommend you to do is usually 4 gigahertz and 1 kilohertz, and that is recommended setting for DroneSoccer. Higher the loop frequency, it's gonna build up the more heat to the motors, so we recommend lower frequency for gyro update and PID loop. And do not disable accelerometer, just leave it as it is, and disable disable barometers and magnetometers. And to the right side of this page, you see the arming. It says max arming angle is set to 25, but we recommended you to change to 180. So 180, what the 180 setup does is that even when your drone is upside down, it allows you to arm the drone. And after that, you go to the receiver on the left side of this page. Continuing on to the receiver is on the left side of your screen. You will see receiver mode and serial receiver provider. So usually you use the serial based receiver and then you choose your own protocol. So in my case, I'm using SBus, but sometimes you should choose whichever protocol that your receiver uses. So some people use iBus, F-port, or SUMD protocol. So you have to choose your protocol based on your receiver. After that, you have to go down to the other features. And here you can see the features that's used on racing drones, and some of them you don't need them. So for example, you do not need OSD and anti-gravity, and also air mode should be turned off. That is recommended for the soccer drones. After that, you're done with the configuration tab. You do not need to go over the power and battery tab. You just need to continue to the PID tuning. On PID tuning, we recommend you to keep the default settings. So these are the recommended settings. You could tune your own drone, but you're gonna have a risk of burning your own motors or degrading the performance of your motors. So we do not really recommend you to tune the drones if you're beginners, but if you get used to it, then maybe you should try it. But for now, do not touch these numbers. And then only thing you need to change here is the angle limit right here. So it is set to 55. So if you're on the offensive side, like a striker, then we recommend you to set the angle limit at 55 degrees. And the higher the degrees, that means faster your drone gets. So for the striker, we recommend 55. For the defensive side, we recommend 40 for the angle limit. I'm gonna put it back to 55, and we're gonna move on to the filter settings. Filter settings is right here, and here we're gonna turn off the notch filters, which is already turned off, and the low pass filters right here. And as you can see, the gyro low pass filter is already turned on. We don't recommend to touch this for now, but when you get used to it, you can play around these numbers to get the better result with your drones. On the receiver tab, currently my drone is set, but my transmitter is not on. And also, so in order to get the correct data on your receiver tab, you will have to power on your drone. So you have to plug in the power to power the receiver as well. And also you will have to turn on your transmitter as well. Once you connect your power to the drone and to the transmitter, you can see these numbers move around 1500, and you have to make sure that these numbers are set to 1500. Some controllers and receivers move around a little bit, like about one or two points, but that will be fine. And also make sure your pitch, roar, and yaw is set correctly. So if you see the bottom right, you see rear drone, and if you can move around the drone like this and see if drone is moving as you intend. If it doesn't move as you intend, then there's something wrong with the setup. So if the channel is set incorrectly, then you can change the channel map here So aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder, you can switch this order to get the correct result for your setup. Moving on to the modes, it's already set on the DroneSoccer. So angle mode is set on the AUX auxiliary channel 2, and it's always on. So that's good. And it's on auxiliary 1 channel, then it's set to arm the drone. So I already set my controller on the auxiliary channel to arm the drone. And as you can see, can you see this yellow dot below the graph? That's the current channel position. So when this dot is inside this range, then drone is going to arm, and it's going to disarm when it's outside of this range. So auxiliary channel 1 is actually, you can see here. So as I move on the receiver tab, you can see it moving. And auxiliary channel 2, you don't have to care because it's set to always on. Moving on to the motors tab. On this tab, you can check if motor is working properly. Here, you have to power on the drone with your battery, and then check this I understand risk, and also make sure you have your props off on your drone. You start with the motor 1. So motor 1 is on the rear right of your drone. On DroneSoccer, the XT60 connector is located on the rear. So that's how you find the rear, or LED on the drone. That's where the rear side of the drone is. So the motor number 1 is right side of rear, and it should rotate in clockwise. So we recommend moving just a little bit. I don't want you to move all the way up because it's going to spin really fast, and that's really dangerous. So just move it up to 1050 and see how motor is spinning. So first you have to check if motor number 1, which means rear right side of the motor, is moving. And secondly, you will have to check the rotation, if it's rotating clockwise. Motor 2, same. You have to check if motor 2 is the motor on the front right is moving. We will have to check that, and also you have to check the rotation that is counterclockwise. So you will have to do the same for motor 3. Motor 3 is counterclockwise, and then motor 4 is clockwise. So you have to check the correct side, correct motors on correct side is rotating, and also you will have to check if motor is rotating in correct direction. After that, you should always turn off I understand risk. And that is pretty much it. OSD, you don't use this function because that's for racing drone. LED strip is already set and saved, so you don't have to touch anything on this. If you have any other questions, please let us know. Thank you.